Hello, welcome along to Man in the Mirror. Hayden Williams here. I hope you're doing good. If you haven't listened to Man in the Mirror before, it's a podcast where each week I talk to a male guest or guests about their life and work, and I have a look at their bathroom cabinet and they tell me about some of the key items in their morning and evening routines. We also touch on self-image, self-care, and what they really think about the man that looks back at them in the mirror. I hope you're having a good week. I'm just outside London. It's been horribly kind of snowy and then rainy and really cold, which isn't ideal for March, but hopefully better weather is on the horizon. This week, I went into central London and did another in-person podcast, which is great. And it's really nice to spend a bit of time with the guest and chat more openly and, see the whites of each other's eyes. So I went into central London to chat to James Dashwood Chase, who is the founder of Baz Co. Now, Baz Co are a new skincare brand with basil as the hero ingredient. Now, we'll talk a lot more about the reasons for it and how it all came about and what the unique aspects of the brand are, but I had a really interesting conversation with James. He talks a bit about his sort of history as well in business and some of the other brands he's worked on, so you'll get to hear more about that. But I think you're going to enjoy this chat. It's James Dashwood Chase, who is the founder of Baz Co, and it's Man in the Mirror. Here we go. Welcome along to another episode of Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden Williams here, and I'm in West London, back out on the road again, and delighted to be doing a face-to-face chat with James Dashwood Chase, who is the founder of Baz Co. Hi, James.
Hi, Hayden. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for making time to do this today. Yeah, you're a new dad. We've been talking before the podcast started, and you have a baby daughter who's a recent arrival, so your world's been sort of thrown upside down in the best possible way recently. So how's all that going?
Yeah, good. You guys listening probably can't, but Hayden can see my bags under my eyes. But we're about 6 weeks in, and I can be happier, and we're getting our routine kind of nailed down, and I'm absolutely over the mood and loving new fatherhood. Yeah,
amazing. And your daughter's Clara, is that right?
Clara, yeah, exactly. So I think we're in honeymoon in Italy, and Love the name, and
oh, it's wonderful
and great. So I've actually been getting into loads of baby massage oils and cosmetics for toddlers, which is
fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
and I should say as well, I mean, some people might know you as James Chase because we'll get into your CV and the other things you've done. But is James Dashwood Chase because you've taken your sort of sharing your wife's surname as well?
Yeah, we had a few discussions. Very progressive thing, I think, for us both to do. But we wanted Clara to grow up with parents that had the same surname, and Tor was obviously incredibly proud of her family name and wanted to keep that alive in respect to our family. So we took the decision to get the name Dashwood Chase, which we love.
And
to get into the habit of rebranded, but I love it. Yeah.
And are you doing those kind of practical things like changing passports and everything, driving license and all those things?
So our passport's been done. I mean, Tor is an immense organizer, and she's
amazing.
Taken the decision to do everything straight away. So just the things like social media and updating everything. But it's definitely a change in the right direction.
I love it. And as you say, I guess that's happening a bit more now, and people, the woman not necessarily wanting to lose all traces of her name. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, definitely within my friendship group, there's been lots of, questions and debates about name changes, and I think, it's an absolutely right thing to do. Obviously, there's then decisions for when Clara has her kids, maybe, and what those names are and different things.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Well, I mean, I got in touch with you, and I'd seen Baz Co online, and seen a few people that I respected talking about the product. I mean, first of all, we should explain what it is and what Baz Co means. It's not short for your Uncle Barry or anything like that. It's the Baz is sorry for such a dad joke. The Baz is basil. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if you could tell me a bit more about it and what Baz Co is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few customers now actually called Baz. So they're probably not like for the efficacy and more for
It's just like having personalised products.
Yeah. I'm a great believer in brand names and the power of a really strong brand and what that can do for the customer. But the story really starts in our hero ingredient, which is basil, or the Greek basilicus,
right?
Which actually means king in Greek.
Oh, does it?
And basil, as we'll chat in a bit, but basil is our hero ingredient. More so because it's incredibly packed with a ton of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory properties, but particularly thrives in what's called a vertical farm, which is something I'm really passionate about championing and getting behind, and trying to really move the narrative in cosmetics, and male cosmetics in particular, about steps we need to be taking towards sustainability. And vertical farming definitely comes with its challenges, but is kind of leading the charge in terms of innovative farming, that's doing things very sustainably.
And currently there's 3 products in the Baz Co range. There's a sort of shower gel, a moisturiser, and a face wash.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a little wash bag there.
Oh, here it is.
Well, I got some treats in it today later, but yeah. So we do. I was all about really, producing a really simple 3-step routine, and I don't know if you probably agree with me, but by the very nature, I think men are very simple creatures.
Yeah, it certainly helps, doesn't it, to have a very kind of straightforward, tight regime. I mean, I've experienced on this podcast, and different people I've chatted to, it can range, the whole gamut ranges from people who want a kind of 10-step Korean skincare regime that sounds like it would take half an hour before you leave the house, to the other extreme of someone who's just a bit of soap and water. But I think, definitely a kind of tight 3-step program is something that any man can build into his regime. And I guess for you as a brand with Baz Co, it's quite easy to explain and articulate what that sort of process is.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, it was getting that 3-step routine pinned down, and that started with a body wash, which the smell for me is so invigorating. It moves then on to a 2-in-1 exfoliator cleanser for the face. Yeah. And then we finish up with our skin food moisturiser, which we use for the face. And it's all about, feeding your skin. Yeah. So those 3 steps I kind of have my brother as a bit of a barometer, because he's probably a typical Baz customer. He's in his late 30s, but he's a farmer. So not your kind of city slicker. Yeah. That you would expect. But I always say that if Harry can understand it and get into it, and then, I definitely think then there's opportunity for lots of other people to do. And, those 3 things I think are really important in terms of looking great, smelling fantastic, and then as you kind of champion, and looking in the mirror and having some confidence. And that's, through my story, that I really wanted men to have confidence, not arrogance, because there's a fine line, but
indeed,
but have confidence. I think that's so important for men to do that in a world that is very full on and stressful. And as we all know, self-care now is really important.
Yeah. And James was kind enough to send me the 3-step program to have a play with before we met a few weeks ago, and I mentioned to him beforehand, I've incorporated them all into my routine, and our shower cubicle now, I've got the cleanser and body wash, and really great, the do what a product I think should do, which is, they're effective, they smell good, and make you feel good. But I think what's interesting with Baz Co actually is that it is a different kind of aroma. We'll talk more about the story and the kind of narrative behind the brand, but using basil is not something I've experienced before. I don't think, maybe it's been there, but I've never not known it. But it's a real hero ingredient here, and what that means to the user is it smells really great. You've got this sort of aromatic quality to it, but also kind of a nice punchy kind of minty freshness as well. So really, I've been loving using it, and the cleanser's got an exfoliating quality which is great. So that's sort of in my morning routine now, and I've really been enjoying the moisturiser too. It's great stuff. And recently you picked up you've been made one of the brands of tomorrow through Walpole, who are the kind of body who oversee the luxury industry. So that's a real kind of real kudos thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was huge news. I mean, Walpole's been going, I think, since 2007 it's a luxury body that champions British craft, basically. And there's some fantastic members alone in the group, but they offer this kind of mentoring program every year where they take on around 12 brands, with a turnover up to 5 million, doing something genuinely different. And then they get paired up with a mentor, and then kind of almost like a therapy session where brands then react and interact with each other and share stories, share challenges, whether that's cost of acquisition or website malfunctions. And then every month we do specific classes, whether that on accounting or marketing or branding and IPO. And, Michon de Rea, the law firm who's partnered with the program. So yeah, it's been great to see. And I know a fellow podcast caster has been on, I think, ACT London.
Yes.
Those guys.
Yeah.
They're great fun, those two, and they're part of the program. We've got another cosmetic brand in there called Mon Pure.
Right.
Founded by this amazing driven guy called Nate. It's all about scalp care for women. And then there's other brands in there. But I'm immensely inspired by the past veterans of the program, brands like Walpole Brown, Bremel watches, and my favourite private white VC jackets from Manchester. And
really nice stuff.
We've all done this program. And I think for a startup brand, no matter your background, you all want to be taken seriously. And that program was,
And it must be great as well to have to someone, other brands and founders to bounce off and say, did you experience that issue, or what would you do about that? Because, I'm sure obviously you've got friends and people in business who could help, but having people who've been through that same journey and got specific experience in your sector must be really invaluable.
Yeah, there's like a WhatsApp group now.
Oh, is there? Yeah. There's always a WhatsApp group, isn't there?
We had the chap on who does Difference Coffee, and he was looking for advice on, Shopify websites. And, it's like a safe group with people that, share similar brands. And I think it's so important to grow. You have to learn and you have to work with other people to develop skills. So we're super happy to be on it. And I'm a huge Walpole fan. Member.
And in fact, it was Nick Carvel, who is another, God, it's all so incestuous, another previous guest on the podcast who works with Walpole, who I think I sort of alerted me to Baz Co. So I have Nick to thank for the introduction. But I mean, you touched on it briefly when you talked about the brand, but I think what's really interesting about Baz Co., and I'm seeing it a lot more, as I'm sure we all are, with our brands now, that we're much more interested in the provenance and the story and what a brand is doing in terms of sustainability and the sort of impact they're making on the planet. And with Baz Co., I was really interested in this idea of vertical farming, because I guess sometimes, whether it's fragrance or skincare, whatever it is, we can be unaware of the impact that using the raw ingredients or the materials that go into the product, we might be unaware of how that impacts the planet, and we need to be more aware of that stuff. So what does vertical farming do, and how is that a kind of step forward with Baz Co?
Yeah, well, I grew up on a rural farm in Herefordshire, and I was immensely those experiences have definitely shaped my life. And fast forward to today, we've come out of COVID. We're an island nation with temperamental weather, and as we've seen with supermarket shelves running out, our supply chain is incredibly fractured, and Brexit probably hasn't helped. But I speak to my brother almost on a daily basis about his struggles, because he's still a commercial farmer, and that something needs to change. And we're with climate change, you could say that we're getting better weather, which is one thing, that we might be able to grow crops all year round. But for instance, we have a government that's probably not as focused on supporting farmers as they should be. And we've all probably watched Clarkson's Farm on Amazon. Yeah. And I think he's done an amazing job. Says probably the wrong thing on some occasions, but but he's done an amazing job to shine the light on farming. And farming has, a lot of people think that farmers have an easy life, but it's very tough out there, and that's partly driven from supermarkets having such a stranglehold on farmers and
they dictating the terms and
totally. And it's a luxury to have a £3.50 chicken, right, from a supermarket, but you've then got to look at the livelihood and the margins and everything else in that. Even to buy milk cheaper than mineral water, I think is an absolute disgrace. Without me ranting about farming too much, the supply chain is definitely broken, but there's some amazing entrepreneurs now that are championing new farming techniques. And just a bit like Elon Musk, they've come from a different space. Like Elon was in PayPal and kind of went into rockets and electric cars. These vertical farmers have all gone into a new space. So really, vertical farming is growing indoors in a controlled environment, and that control piece is super, super important. And then via artificial light, these farms are able to, grow crops with 90% less water.
Wow.
And I was looking earlier, rough stats, 1 litre of water will grow a significant amount of lettuce in a vertical farm, whereas I think it's about 20 litres of water you need the same amount in a greenhouse, but then in an open field you need about 250 litres of water. So the water saving's huge. There's low food miles.
That's incredible.
The yield is massive, and the main thing in a cosmetic space, there's no herbicides or pesticides. So
of course,
it's almost beyond organic. And Baz Co partners with a fantastic entrepreneur called James, and he's built out the Jones Food Company that have a couple of sites, one up in Scunthorpe that produces around 30% of all the UK's basil now, which is extraordinary. And I'll show you later a little film, and it's almost like Mike TV and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's bloody cool when you see this facility. And then they're just opening up a new site near Bristol, which is really paving the way forward. Look, vertical farms aren't going to grow all of our crops and ingredients, but they're definitely going to, provide a certain part of that piece. So we're less dependent on imports, and we can grow more leafy greens and botanicals here, which I only think is a good point. And more particularly, more and more people are living in cities now. So if we can grow food where people are,
less food miles and
definitely. And if those scientists can then really develop better food, i.e. packed with more nutrients, which a lot of these Michelin-star chefs now are really getting behind, then I think that's fantastic. But on a cosmetic space, I'm really interested in those, in those benefits. And there's definitely some criticism, in terms of electricity usage and the need on that. But but Jones Food Company are really, really proud to run their sites off renewable energy.
Right.
And I think the kind of pure saving and efficiencies greatly outweighs, any of those negativities.
So it might be a silly question, but then is the basil that they're growing for you, is it exactly this? Is it, he's growing his basil for, to sell in the supermarkets and salads and everything else?
Yeah.
Is that exactly the same basil that you get for Baz Co? Is it kind of separated out in a certain, there's your stuff over there in that corner and the rest of it's over there? Does it make any difference? You could just have any basil that he's producing in this vertical farm, could you?
Yeah, we've done a few trials. Ultimately, I need a really high concentration of essential oils.
Yeah.
And I haven't got the exact stats, but I mean, you need a huge amount of basil to make a very small concentration of essential oil. And, in that mix, we need a really high yielding crop that is absolutely packed with the right things that we need to distill that into an essential oil. So, and Baz Co, all the ingredients aren't grown, in a vertical farm, but it's my step to definitely provide a good proportion of them. And then I'm trying to build that out. So, one day that we can pretty much grow, those crops centrally. But it's part of the process, and it's it's so interesting to see the space develop.
Yeah. And I should say, James's background, as he mentioned, is farming, and actually your previous business was in spirits. So Chase Distillery had vodka and gin. So you knowing about the land and knowing about ingredients has been part of your life and work for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in North Herefordshire, which, Herefordshire as a county is got 60,000 people. So it's very, very rural.
Yeah.
It's on the way to Aberystwyth, and not many people are off to Aberystwyth in a hurry.
If they go to university. I had a friend who went to uni there.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful place, and my family have been farming there for 3 generations.
Right.
My father was one of very few people that we didn't take on a huge farm, but that farm was called Tyrrell's Court, and we traded potatoes. We had some really tough years, and my father is definitely a hugely entrepreneurial guy that no day is ever the same with him. And that led us to trying to create some brands. And in a really simple history, we started the brand Tyrrell's Crisps,
Fully aware. Love your work.
Which are great. Not good for the waistline, but great for a snack.
But they were definitely part of that. My limited crisp knowledge, but that sort of premium movement and making it about interesting, good flavors and about a premium quality, which they seem to sort of, ride the crest of the wave with that, and still one of the biggest brands in that space, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and is that still in the family business?
Yeah, so the brand we sold off, but we still own the farm.
Right.
And my mother is still really involved in the business. We do all of their, a lot of their logistics and distribution.
Yeah.
So that, and they still get made on Tyrrell's Court Farm, which we're immensely proud of.
Yeah. And is it a global brand now?
Yeah, I mean, the Americans couldn't get their name around. Tyrrell's.
Yeah.
But it definitely grew, and that led on to the distillery when, we were lucky enough to start traveling around. And in 2007, 2006, Barack Obama had pulled down the jurisdiction for legal still sizes, and we were over in America researching deep fat frying. Where else would we go other than America to learn about
the home of deep fat frying?
The home of deep fat frying.
Yeah.
And when we were out there, we kind of stopped by in some bars on the way back through Manhattan, and there was these freaking amazing craft spirits that were just coming out, flavorful bourbons, full on vodkas with flavor, and we were just super inspired and came back to the UK. Didn't see any innovation in that space. Kind of Gordon's, Bombay, maybe, and Hendrix were your kind of ultimate premium gin space. Yep. And if you guys go to a gin shelf now, say in Waitrose,
feels massive. Yeah,
probably have
sorts.
20 over 30 quid. It's crazy. So, but back then, 2006-07, it didn't happen. Barack Obama said to pull these still sizes down, and the craft scene boomed in America. And I always say, and kind of similar to the space we're in now, America very much starts these trends, and then we'll inherit them, a bit later. Yeah. And that's certainly what's happened with that movement. So we came back to the UK really simply, realised we had a huge amount of smaller potatoes, too small to make crisps. So instead of feeding them to the cows, we've got an amazing herd of Pole Hereford cattle. Instead of feeding them to the cows, we decided to build a distillery. And Chase Distillery was born in 2008 amongst the financial crisis and Lehman Brothers collapsing and the height of the copper price, I remember, when we were buying all this equipment. So, we instilled the stills and then Chase, more so timing. I think we really timed the market well. And we started with vodka because that was from the potatoes that surround the field. And we really wanted to go after a wine approach where single estate was important, field to bottle. And then the gin came a few years later. And it was an amazing journey, and it allowed me to travel the world. And we'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But really opened my eyes to luxury brands, to traveling, but also to the cocktail world, which is insane. And it's all about flavor, theatre, romance. It's a fantastic industry. But the distillery, allowed me to travel the world, and we grew the brand very quickly. And then, as we see now, the market is then been absolutely saturated with startup. Gin distilleries.
And now is Diageo bought Chase Distillery.
Yeah, it was huge news. We agreed as a board and a team that this can either very much be a family company, or we can look for a partner now within the business. And once we had agreed to do that, my dad and I went out to start finding the right suitors, and Diageo were very quickly keen to come in on an exclusivity basis. And then COVID happened.
Seem to have all these sort of big events, don't you?
Yeah.
When you're about to do these things.
And I remember I was living in Chicago at the time, and I remember moving back with my mum in North Herefordshire.
Why were you in Chicago?
America was a key market for us to grow, and Chicago, A, because I love the film Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and B, it's a really good centrally located airport. And if anybody hasn't been to Chicago, I thoroughly recommend it, because I think that's proper America.
Yeah.
Whereas I think New York and LA, say, while they're amazing cities, Chicago is for me, is proper Americana. And I loved it there. Drank a huge amount in the industry, but it immensely was important to building the Chase brand and getting it listed there. It was probably a lot harder than we thought, because since 2006, when we were last out there, the market was absolutely saturated now with local brands. And we've kind of seen that here, that, most places want to stock a local brand or support a local brand, or you're a multinational with a massive check.
Yeah.
But then COVID came in, moved back with mum, and we started to make sanitizer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And because we're field to bottle,
Yeah.
we had the ability to make raw alcohol,
Right.
which very few distillers, because they were using neutral grains for it, didn't. So it was an amazing time, and then dishing out to local communities and police services and the local force. So, and that was great. And then with Diageo came back online, because I think they came back online very keen to have a first English distillery acquisition, and then that completed in March 21. And then I stayed on with the brand for another 6 months integrating. And then, as far as brand ownership now, we're out. But we like with Tyrrell's, we still own the farm, and they're on a long-term lease. And I really hope they stay there and invest in the area. And Herefordshire is an amazing county. And I think, these brands really help the local economy and employing people.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing chapter in my life. And
So it's two huge success stories already in the family. And then with Baz Co. I mean, why did you go to men's skincare first of all with Baz Co? Was that a deliberate, did you see a space there, or was it something that you were particularly interested in?
Yeah, I think during Chase, I was always interested in the space. Going through my own journey in Chicago, I was living on my own. I was drinking probably every day, and I got into this unhealthy cycle where I probably wasn't my best self. I wasn't helping things by my diet, and I discovered, a natural skincare routine, and they do have a really good shops out there that that really have a fantastic selection of skincare and self-care. And like I said before, those guys are often on a few trends earlier than us, but yeah, I think it was in one of the shops out there, and I met an amazing assistant, and she just taught me the power of looking after yourself
And getting a good routine.
Yeah. So, having that, not necessarily from a beauty point of view, but I really found that a morning routine really shaped the rest of my day. So by getting that routine done, looking in the mirror, I'd probably more likely then get out walking or go for an exercise. And then probably have a healthier lunch, maybe a salad or an evening. But it was a subconscious thing that I did every morning that then really helped me. And then post the acquisition, then looking at new categories to disrupt. The problem was I couldn't find a natural skincare brand that was targeted for men. And if they were out there, they probably used words like thunder and steel, and maybe were David Beckhamified. And from a farmer, I really wanted something that was supernatural, that was targeted to me, because I think men, the products are fantastic with efficacy, but people buy brands because of the way that it makes them feel.
Yeah,
and I wanted something that I could buy into that that made me feel great. And I couldn't find that, and then discovering, here we are now discovering your podcast, and it's now great. It's so great to see so many entrepreneurs come into the space and actually see this category, which, if you look at the broader cosmetic market, male skincare is still incredibly tiny. Yeah. But it is growing. And I always have a great saying, ships rise with the tide. And just like the gin market did, there was loads of, brands pushing that space, and Fever Tree obviously were there too to benefit off it. Yeah. But the male skincare space is really only going to excel because of all these amazing entrepreneurs that are kind of championing it and talking about it and learning off each other.
It's really interesting you say that. And I've, in the 3 seasons and the various people I've spoken to, there's definitely that feeling. I don't sense, maybe people are quieter about it, but I don't sense the competition so much. I think, as you say, people are wanting to support fellow brands, and actually, if they're sort of founder-owned brands and there's sort of challenges in the space, everyone's got a sort of duty, and they're looking out for each other to try and sort of, push up against the big beauty conglomerates. It does seem like an interesting time, but a supportive sector. And I would say the same actually for, the fragrance space as well. There's some really interesting, independent and some founder-owned brands in that world doing a similar job of, trying to sell the story of provenance and good ingredients and trying to sort of, paint a picture and be a little bit different to some of the bigger brands. And I hope, the more I do of this and the more people I talk to, it just does feel like a very sort of exciting time where lots of developments are happening. And talking to mates and other men, I think there seems like there's less resistance to this idea that, a guy, why shouldn't a guy have a a skincare regime and want to make the best of himself. And as you say, this idea of self-care isn't restricted just to women. And if it makes you feel better and sets your day up right, then that feels like a good thing to me. So some of those barriers that were maybe there in previous decades or previous generations, hopefully that's changing, and supporting some incredible brands who might be domestic brands and doing really innovative stuff in the space. It feels like does feel like a good time, I think.
Oh yeah, totally, Hayden. I think you're doing an amazing job rallying around that. But don't get me wrong. I still want to win, and there's definitely a competition against all the other brands out there, and
you'll be friendly to a point.
yeah. But at the same time, we're so dwarfed by these huge multinationals that have such strongholds, and I think now
marketing power
totally. But with social media and direct consumer business models, you can find your tribe, and unlike probably some previous brands, I am really laser focused on who that demographic is and what they get up to and why they buy Baz. And not to say that a brand that David Beckham might be good, but that's a different audience, and I think you've got to find that tribe, whoever they are, and cultivate them. And I believe in our tribe, we've got enough people out there that are into that natural skincare and they want to make a positive difference in the in their day.
Right, and it must be that, mustn't it? I suppose, because we can't pretend that a lot of these brands I talk to, but certainly with Baz Co, at the moment it's not the sort of £3 or £4 item that you would pick up in the high street chemist. So it's finding your target market who want to have good quality products, but are also interested in the whys and the hows and getting a bit more into it. But we see it in so many other sectors, don't we? Whether it's wines or cigars or food or anything, people will pay a little bit more for good quality, and when they know the story of the product itself. I think it's very interesting that you're talking about a certain demographic. I mean, do you see it? Presumably, it's not so particularly kind of an age thing. Is it more a kind of attitude to skincare that you find?
Yeah, I definitely like looking at myself in my 20s. Getting me onto a skincare routine, it'd be a complete waste of time. So I definitely think we out of all of our customers now, we really do well on a 35 to 55. Yeah, we've got a few 70-year-olds actually that are looking great and using the range. But the 35 to 55-year-old is a great range. And then what attributes do they get up to? And what are they interested in? I think for me, food is immensely important to eating well. And we've always said feed your skin a healthy diet of everything it needs and nothing it doesn't. And that sense of feeding your skin and your body the right things, I think, is hugely important. And diet, as we know, especially through COVID, is really important. And
I've been seeing lots of various sort of content creators online with this idea, that some men, why are they sort of eating really good food and then putting really cheap rubbish on their face and their body, and there's a sort of truism in that, isn't there? And I think it's sort of, if you follow the logic of wanting to put good things in, then as you say, it's kind of the nourishment and the food and for your skin, makes sense to care about that stuff just as much, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I used to nick Tor's skincare stuff, and she used to bollock me. And I think a lot of men out there have probably got. They've probably dabbled in the. Yeah, and then now Tor steals my things and the body wash and stuff. So I think, I definitely think there's an occasion. I think people want their showers. We've all invested maybe a bit more in our homes, and we all want our showers to look really nice. And having a shower at home with a load of plastic on it, I don't think sits too well. So having good, sustainable packaging on your shower shelf, and then products that smell great, put you in such a good mood. And I've always tried to champion cold showers too. So using our products with a cold shower, if you can get through that one challenge in that day, again, it's like making your bed. It sets you up for that motion in the day. And a lot of my mates have converted. They do the hot water half and then the cold water, which I think is kind of cheating, but
and then get into the Wim Hof stuff.
The food side of things, back on that, I think it's so important that that we're really kind of basing the brand around the food culture.
Yeah. Well, look, we will come back to Baz Co, no doubt, but part of the podcast is to talk to the guest about some of the key items on their own bathroom shelf. And you've said, you went from nicking your wife's stuff to, I'm sure, having your own regime now. It'd be great if you could tell me a bit about some of the products. Obviously, Baz Co will feature heavily, but what does your sort of morning and evening routine look like in terms of products that you enjoy using?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I brought you my little wash bag, which we've done a collaboration with Jack, but he's got an amazing company called Billy Tannery.
I think I've seen that online, Billy Tannery.
Yeah, they make regenerative.
Do they do wallets and leather goods stuff as well?
Yeah, and they've done some like shoes, I think. Amazing business. Give them a Google. And the leather industry, is really unsustainable, and he's really trying to shine a light on what they do. But yeah, we've developed this wash bag. Always love those like footballers when they come into the stadium holding on, and if they could hold a regenerative goat's leather wash bag, it'd be even better. But
that'll be next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so in my wash bag, because I do like getting to the gym, so then obviously I need to bring my products.
Is that first thing then?
Yeah, I love exercising first thing. I can't. Sometimes I'll do it a bit later, but most of the time first thing in the morning. And I'm training to do this huge bike ride in April. It's called the 312 in Mallorca.
Right.
I've got a friend who sets us up to do the most stupidest but then brilliant challenges every year.
You find yourself agreeing?
Yeah. So
what was it? What's 312?
So 312 is 312 kilometres around the north part of Mallorca.
Oh my God.
And it'll be like a 9 to 10 hours, probably more, on the bike. And you've got to finish behind this pack of old boys that come in green jerseys and flush out the field, and got to finish in front of them. But
are you a keen cyclist anyway?
Yeah, so I'm in the gym a lot now, training for that, and I've got I'm actually big on the Peloton now. There's a pro cyclist on there that is an absolute wizard, and been getting fit and getting out on the bike, and so a lot of training for the legs, and we're trying to train like 5 days a week now. So in the gym. And then, I've got my wash bag of stuff, and normally I run hot, so I'm normally quite hot and sweaty, but it's like, trying to use a really simple bag that I can bring on the go.
What's in the bag?
Obviously, we've got our Baz Co stuff, and won't bore on about those and how good they are. But so I've been using this like natural deodorant, actually, and this is from Aesop.
Oh, Aesop.
That small known brand that everybody loves. So it's on their hand wash.
It's very expensive hand wash.
This is great. I I actually stopped using deodorant during lockdown, probably because I was living with my mum. But
what did she say about that?
Probably, I don't know. I wouldn't ask her. But then realising, coming back out in the world, and we've all seen how well fragrances have done, and some of the efficacies of things. And I definitely think as you get into the summer months, your armpits are probably one of the most porous parts of your body. But yeah, for me, this Aesop one is great. It's got some vetiver root in here as well. There's no aluminium salts, but it's a great natural deodorant. And
you're finding it to be really effective?
Yeah, lasts for the day, and it's a natural. Like those natural roll-ons are great, but if dudes have got like armpit hair, I find them a bit abrasive and don't really work too well.
The old catching the hair in them and all that.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then I remember this crazy guy at school, and his mum probably was a bit of a hippie and banned him from using aerosol canisters. And we were like, Chris is not wearing deodorant. Fast forward to today.
And he was the clever one.
He was the clever one. And I saw somebody in the gym the other day with a big aerosol, and I was almost choking. And I
know, it's horrible, isn't it now? That sort of fog of nasty stuff.
Terrible. And I looked on the back of the ingredients, and I wouldn't dare eat any of those ingredients. So why would you put them on the most porous part of your body? Anyway, this Aesop one, I think, does the job super well. It's really good efficacy. Probably, won't last 2 days, but who's going 2 days without a shower? So
I always think it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes when on those TV ads, they go like 72 hours, like that you can your deodorant would last 72 hours. It just seems like, but why would you? People just going to go to the gym and then not wash for 3 days or something. Seems bizarre. But anyway,
but we all know that amazing Lynx advert, and the dude's running down the beach and loads of girls are chasing him. I think so. Whether that advert could be allowed today, but I think
it's still quite a powerful pull, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've said many times my 14-year-old's still in that kind of Lynx phase, which he needs to. Well, I think he's slowly coming out the other side of it, but
So that's a really interesting product that I use. And then, smell-wise, I do love fragrance.
Do you find yourself drawn to signature scent, or do you mix it up, or how do you choose fragrance?
In here today is actually, God, I'm backing all the big multinationals, aren't I? This is Le Labo, and I obviously love smelling like a Brooklyn hotel lobby wherever I go out.
Don't we all?
Yeah. But this Santal 33, I think, is wicked, and actually,
but it's a hit for a reason, isn't it? Because it smells great.
Oh yeah, this is great. But I've been really into this brand called Rook perfume.
Yes, I know. He's isn't he a surgeon? British brand Rook.
Yeah.
I think isn't he a doctor and a actor?
Yeah. Why not? yeah.
And a perfumer.
Yeah. So
I'd love to. I was to get him on the podcast.
You definitely should do. He's called Nadeem Crow.
Do you know him?
We've spoken a few times, and his brother, I think, loves Baz. And Nadeem is on. I think actually he subscribes to the exfoliator, but. Nadeem is doing amazing thing, and he's got this product called Undergrowth, which I love using. But I checked on his description, and he always says it's like pulling fresh garden mint from damp soil. I mean, if that doesn't do it for you, I don't know what does. But that for me, and I think
see that being your kind of jam.
yeah. And that's also like mood wise, I'm like, that's probably a going out scent for me. If I'm on a date night with Tor and we're going out, I'd love to put that on. But this like Santal with. Probably I'm a big vetiver like fan. This is probably an everyday. I wouldn't mind cracking this on in the gym and not like choking everybody out with the smell as well. But yeah, that Nadeem's doing great things. And I again, we go back to subconscious. I think, using perfume to really enhance your day and put you in a great mood is great. And smell, what we learned with Chase Distillery with our pink grapefruit gin, things have got to look great for Instagram. They've got to taste amazing, which is really key, but they've got to smell great. And some of what we knew, some of the best gins that were selling in the market were because they transported people on holiday, and when it's pissing with rain outside,
it's miserable here, White City.
Pop the bottle and take me to Spain. Exactly. Yeah,
it's quite seductive, isn't it? That idea of being transported through scent, and whether that's your kind of shower gel in the morning or fragrance or deodorant or whatever it is.
It's evocative. It's inspirational, and that's what we all need, a bit of that in our lives, don't we?
Totally. And in terms of shaving and grooming, James, where you've got a sort of very tight stubble there, do you tend to leave a little bit of stubble all the time, or do you ever go completely clean shaven? What's your policy with shaving? What's your shaving policy?
After I've shampooed. No, I went bald from probably I was about 18 when I started to really lose my hair.
Were you? But you still, because it might sound odd, but I have had guests on who don't have much hair, but they still shampoo. Do you not? Because there's still the skin there, and
if I've had an argument with Victoria, I might nick some of hers, use her expensive shampoo. I don't at all. And
do you put anything on it?
No. I obviously the exfoliator for my face, which then covers my forehead and top part of my head. But it was really tough when I never really talked about that too much. But when I was 18, just when I was finishing,
were you self-conscious about it?
Oh, it definitely affected me then, and I went through like a few years of like getting down on the whole like Donald Trump side parting things, and then because nobody really grow like that, and your mates are a bit tough on it, and then a lot of my mates now, hair loss and thinning and everything else is a huge problem for men,
and that's a big sector, isn't it? Now there's stuff you can products for a start, and then transplants and all the things around that. It's a big old sector,
huge. I had this friend the other day, and he was in the gym, and he's like, "Chasey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get a hair transplant."
Oh yeah,
and he booked it in. I was like, "Mate, what the fuck are you doing? That's just." Not natural, and you've got to think more long term. He was plugging a natural brand himself, and I'm like,
because it only lasts a certain amount of years, is that right?
Totally. And then back on the kind of the product front, a lot of them are laced with chemicals or pills, and again, that's not right. And it's an easy thing just to say shave it off. And when I was young, it was easy to do because I was young, and you when you're that age, you don't think 5 minutes ahead of time, right? But as you get older, you get weathered by views and different things, and it's hard for blokes in their 30s and onwards. It's a very some faces look different because you've looked like that for years, right? And suddenly you're changing. But I know that's the way I look, and I'm happy with it.
I think you kind of suit that close cropped, and you keep the stubble similarly short.
Yeah. So back to your shaving. Yeah, I've never gone wet shaving, but I would like to try that. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons David Beckham's been so successful is because he changed his lid. He changed his haircut every few years, or every football club. But I'm contact lenses I don't work well with because they're fidgety, and I'd imagine for me shaving, I definitely will be cutting myself or or doing something. So I use like a Bayless super sharp. Now I get a new one every 6 months because I either lose it somewhere or I like to keep them bristles nice sharp, and sharp.
Yeah.
And then I just cut that to like, quite a short length.
So how often would you use that then?
Twice a week.
Yeah. Okay.
I do miss the hairdressers. I mean, I'd love to go one day. It'd be quite fun. I'd love a Turkish job on my.
It is nice. Have you never done sort of gone and have a wet shave? It is nice.
Yeah.
And the old sort of the Turkish places that do the sort of flaming of the ears and all that stuff as well. As
hey, but I'm quids in on saving, so all those.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it does suit you. I haven't seen photos of when you were younger, but I think it's that style is kind of, it looks pretty sharp.
Oh, thanks, Aidan. And I think I was chatting about this earlier. This guy is working on a sailing brand, and for me, sailing is quite linked. I want Baz to like link in with some of these sports that.
Are you interested in sailing?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great sport because it's sustainable and it's good. And we've been having some conversations with different sailors, and one of their biggest problems is they're applying a lot of SPF every day. And I'm going to mispronounce it, but like looking out for mallumomas.
Yes,
for skin cancer. And I think it's a huge thing that especially in the summer months, UV rays are super strong, and we've got to be protecting ourselves. And I really want our skin food to develop into an SPF. Originally, that was the idea. It meant to be SPF, but having a mineral-based, all-natural one. A lot of these sunscreens are packed with chemicals. But I know like Malin and Getz have done a fantastic mineral-based sunscreen now. It does stain your white T-shirt. I found out over the summer, but that's definitely an area.
Found out to your cost.
And if you're in the sun all day, I think that's the biggest form of effect on the skin is sun damage, and to protect against that, I think is so important. Yep.
Great.
Yep.
So you touched on it there in terms of what the future might be for Baz Co. I mean, where do you see the brand going? And did you sort of see it expanding into women's stuff, or just keeping it to a men's range? And I'm sure you've got, you don't have to reveal them. I'm sure you've got other plans in place for further products.
Oh, definitely. So, being really honest, we are developing a natural deodorant,
great.
Which is great. So I can swap out the Aesop and get some basil.
Save some money there.
Yeah, and I think that's like a great fourth step in the routine.
Yes.
And ours is fantastic. We've just done a private study with a group of Baz customers.
I think I saw that. Yeah, you got people to test it out.
It was amazing, Hayden.
It's gone well.
And instead of I'm a great believer in like user market fit and figuring out what the customer wants. And, as a small business, without doing a big purchase order for thousands of units, we got some testers made up. We did an email the other Sunday.
You can get that kind of quick and ready feedback.
Totally. And I just asked them to pay for the packaging, and within 5 minutes, we'd all sold out. So they've got the samples at home. They'll be getting a Google Doc as a questionnaire, and I'll be getting some really good feedback in for the brand, which I'll utilise, sign off the final liquid, and then, we'll hope to get that out for kind of late spring, early summer. So perfect for that kind of time of year.
So great, isn't it? I mean, you'd imagine at some point, having to spend thousands on market research companies and sitting the other side of a, two-way mirror and all that, and how, you get that kind of that instant feedback from people who care about your brand and interested and want you to do well.
Totally. And I think people do care, and if they want to get behind a brand. I mean, I'm staggered the amount of reviews. I've never hardly left a review, and I'm just staggered the amount of reviews. We get essays of people coming in and writing reviews, and
it must mean they like it.
And I think consumers, especially the public, are really opening up to finding a good brand they like, and if it's independent, really getting
and championing it.
100%. Yeah. So in terms of we've got a lot of work to do in the UK. I think the market is huge in the UK for where we are, and for men living in cities, that's our bread and butter. We need to really penetrate that. The tension in our category is men, I think, find it quite awkward to shop for skincare. So I knew there was a stat with Bulldog, and they said 70% of their purchases in Sainsbury's were women buying for the man at home.
Right, okay.
And things have changed now, and that's what makes direct to consumer so compelling. Is because men find that quite comfortable. You can get some
and
product.
you have subscription offers, don't you, where people can get regular?
Exactly. So we've got a subscription, sell online, and they get a beautiful, we've got some fantastic reused cardboard and glues in all of our packaging, so it's sent straight out. And for me, we want more retail. We've just got listed in Fortnum Masons, and going to be doing something for the King's coronation, which will be quite fun. That's a little corner shop in Piccadilly, which is great. John Bell and Croydon have been a great ambassador to men's skincare.
I love that shop.
And they've got a whole section by the till.
Yeah.
Which Sasha there, the buyer, is doing an amazing job for the category. And then
they do seem like they pick very well, don't they? And they're great buying. And you know, I went in there and just thought, you know, a lot of friends of the podcast, you know, people I talk to, but it just all the kind of brands I'd seen online that I like, it's all there, isn't it, in one store?
Yeah, they do an amazing job. And then look, we partner with like male stores as well. So my buddy on Savile Row, Cad and the Dandy, and he carries Baz Co products.
Great.
In there. We're potentially doing more work with him.
Makes sense, doesn't it? You know, all these places that are going to have your target market. Walk in, go and find them there. Yeah,
be available where people want your brand. And I think that for men, you know, it's very hard, and cost of acquisition online is, you know, I'm sure it's very, very hard thing for a lot of brands right now. But so to get out there, and we need that omni-channel approach where we need good retail space. And then in America we trade with Amazon, which is great because we've got a few fans of the brand out there, but we're not working on that model here in Europe. And then I'm just working with a few export markets, but at the moment, without being distracted, I've got so much work to do in the UK.
It must be so, you know, full of admiration for brand founders. It feels like there must be so many pulls on your time. You know, there's the supporting the work you're doing now and making sure that's growing, but, you know, thinking about new products and new markets. You must have to,
it's
get up early.
Oh, it's a definite balancing act, but I do think like focus is super important, and building that community, whether it's 2 people or whether it's 1 million people, it's like being laser focused on, you know, what their needs and wants are, and checking in with them. And that's something I've learned. And
you've done it before, haven't you? So.
Yeah, but it in a digitally age, you know, 3-4 years ago was a long time away, and the consumer's advancing all the time. So it's how we can get better at serving our customers, and then keep on innovating, whether that mix is the right one or we keep bringing new products out. But ultimately, if it doesn't work, like with Chase, we had a graveyard of products that we started, and like a nettle vodka, and it didn't work, but we tried it. We did a horseradish gin for the Savoy. Didn't really sell well, but it made the most amazing Bloody Mary. Yeah. So you got to try these things.
Don't you?
You got to fail and fail fast.
Test and develop.
Yeah. And I think that's a super key formula for any fledgling brand, I think. Yeah.
And in terms of, we talked about men in this space. I mean, how do you see? How do you think we can bring more men into this kind of simple routine? You know, what's the work that a brand can do in terms of, you know, educating men of what they need to do? Is it about having your brand in these different touch points, these different spaces? You know,
I think it's a bit of everything. I think the category is growing. I still don't think that we will see men shopping the way that females have shopped, and that's whole customer service. Now, could be wrong, and I think brands like Aesop do incredibly well in terms of their stores and how normalised it is. But I don't think there's anything wrong in that.
And those shops are great. It's like Aesop's great because it doesn't feel like, as a man, you're entering a female space. Do you know what I mean? It's not. They're very deliberate with their colour schemes and how they merchandise the products and everything. I don't think I would anyway, but I certainly don't feel like, I'm in the wrong place and I'm going to get funny looks. And maybe that's important, isn't it? And it's difficult to do sometimes, that idea that you've got, go that side for women, this side for men. But, the brands that are like Le Labo and Aesop that we've talked about that are kind of promoting this sort of, gender-free idea, or at least a space that, everyone's welcome in, which isn't the case everywhere.
Yeah, totally. And we're in a few conversation with some amazing gyms at the moment.
Oh, really?
We're not a unisex brand, but there's definitely some more male-focused gyms. There are these banyas that are getting more popular now, and Guy Ritchie and...
What are they?
It's a banya, Russian-based, but there's one in London owned by a Ukrainian. And in that part of the world, their culture very much is to bathe in a sauna, sit in a sauna with the mates,
right?
And they do like this one in London. They've got 2 now, but they do like men only on like Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Like a sauna.
Yeah, a sauna, and there's a cold plunge pool.
Okay.
And then they've got birch leaves that they can thrash you around with. But it's like spaces where men go and download. Offload, and chat to each other, which I think is really important, and like community, and that's what I missed in Chicago. That was one of my values that I realised that because I'd unplugged family and friends and my support group, that was hard. And I think, self-care and mental health immensely important for men, and to have these spaces where they can go to, and often that's like group exercises or these places like a banya is really important. And can Baz and Co fit into that? And then I wouldn't know. A lot of my friends tell me, but like grooming parlours and hairdressers, they're popping up everywhere. The amount of barbershops I see now is amazing, and they're chatting to each other.
Well,
when I'm peering in the window and looking at them.
No, it had Andrew Cannon from the Ruffians, sort of high-end barber chain, on a few weeks ago, and was saying exactly that. That these spaces where men can have real conversations and which can be a pressure on the barbers themselves, but a place where men can offload and have conversations that are where someone can listen with a sort of open ear. Really important. And say, obviously there's pubs and bars and restaurants and everything else, but it's interesting when you're talking about these banyas and barbers. It is useful to have places that aren't just about getting pissed. To have conversations with men.
Totally. And like that, the pub's always been great with that, but lives are changing and people are drinking less, and
there's less pubs around as well.
less pubs around, and it was great with the distillery because we had cocktail bars that could really showcase our brand. With Baz Co, finding those establishments, as we've talked about, is harder. But it's definitely a job, and it's getting on our radar to find those places. And like, I know my wife, she probably chats to her mates about skincare and what brands they use, but men chatting between each other what brands they use. It's definitely happening, and they're talking more about it. But definitely time will tell, and I think people are being proud, and that's what I love in the gym. And I'm probably that weird guy in the corner, but I always, if someone is there and I chat to them what brands they're using. Or,
do you? Bit of market research.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a bit of market research. And it's interesting that people, if you have a brand, you like to talk about it. And I've read this amazing book. It's called The Purple Cow. It's like a marketing book. I think it's by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about the word like sneezers. And if you're a sneezer, you're like, you love a brand and you love it. So like, I've got an Allied bike, which is my road bike, and I just tell everybody about
as
it.
In you spit it out there.
A sneezer on that brand. And then I've got other brands in my life that I probably don't tell because I'm not true. I love it, but I'm not a true loyalist. And can men be sneezers on skincare products or to do that? And I think it's starting to definitely certain communities talk about what aftershave they use and is that you using that one? Or because I was in the pub last night actually, and my friend was wearing Creed Aventus and he was sneezing about it. He was boring everybody off.
Those Creed guys, they love it. They love talking about.
Yeah. But that's what I want Baz Co to be. Is like, want people to be sneezers on the brand and talk about the brand and open that dialogue with people.
I think they will be, and I think, and I was at an event the other day actually, and I got a bit of challenge where I was saying, well, maybe men aren't sort of as interested in the kind of story of brands, and the woman was actually saying, men. What she was finding was that men get quite into the kind of under the bonnet and into like they would about a car or something like that. And I suppose with something like Baz Co, the more people can find out about the actual story behind it and how it works and the vertical farming and all those things. It's quite interesting points, and I think things like that, I would be much more interested in finding out the background of a brand like Baz Co than a big multinational which doesn't seem to have the same sort of rich story behind it. So I and as we've said already, I think men are getting much more comfortable having these conversations with friends, and I can definitely see that happening with Baz Co. Get to that stage in the podcast where we talk about the man in the mirror and who looks back at you. So I wonder with you, James, when you're doing your morning routines or evening routines and you're looking in the mirror, how do you feel about your appearance at your life stage now? No, you mentioned the feeling a bit tired and weary because of Clara being a newborn, but when you look in the mirror, what are your thoughts when James looks back at you?
Those bags under the eyes today was a different one. I think, I think I've grown to get used to it. And as I said, that losing my hair when I was younger was really tough. But
how old are you now, James?
I'm 33 now.
Right.
Yeah, it took me a while to answer that. So still young at heart. And look, people. There's a great saying that somebody said the other day, because there's been all this talk about Warren Buffett being a hugely successful guy, but yet he has a Coca-Cola and a McDonald's every day. Look what he's still trading at the age of I think he's in his 90s now. But it's not, and he doesn't do any skincare or any of this like wellness stuff, but we're in different times. People need to find out what works for them and what doesn't.
We'll send him some Baz Co.
We'll send him some Baz Co. I know that skincare routine has helped me in my journey and fighting, the demons and getting through that. And they, and they often say, when you're born, you're given that loaded gun, and it's up to you, what you do with the gun and when you pull the trigger. And I think for me, aging, a lot of those tech guys now are really into like reversing the age and doing that. And I've been really careful not to go into efficacy too much with Baz Co, because I don't want you to use this and it. That's why I'm not a huge fan of things like the eye creams or the eye rollers and things, because for me it's not about the efficacy. We're all going to age differently, and we've all got a different time zone to take that on. But for me, it's that like making your bed every morning. It's that morning habit that subconsciously gets you into that routine of eating well, exercising, and
makes you feel good.
Yeah, and doing the right things. And like, somebody at school always said, we want people to be coming out of school, treading that fine line between arrogance and confidence, but feeling confident. And yeah, I do look in the mirror now, and some days looking a little tireder, but on the whole, I'm really happy. And I'm definitely, when I check in with myself, that's my important thing. And I check in with myself and who I am and what I'm doing. Yeah, no, I think it's good. And I was saying to you, we do these adventures every year, and I've got like, I was looking at myself the other day, and I've got like, I didn't quite break my nose, but I hit my nose, and there was like a little thing I was feeling self-conscious about the other day, and like no one can see it. It was just under my bridge of my nose, which is a bit inflamed, and I might always have that. And we were training for this hill climb, and there's like balls in the gym that you throw on the floor, and they're meant to stay down. The coach it was in like a high altitude training center. I freaking slammed this ball as hard as I could back on the floor, and it came straight up me here. And I've got like a concave in my nose, and I'll always have that. And I watched, there's Louis Theroux, that's done like a recent interview program, and he interviewed Bear Grylls.
I saw that. Yeah.
Bear Grylls, for like, now he's eating meat again. He's such an amazing ambassador for young kids. And he said, look, when my time's done, I want to be taken out of the room in a stretcher, warts and all, and like covered in bruises and everything. And I think like, I was just looking at that bump, and I was like, I probably always have this in my nose for the rest of my life. I don't want to go to Harley Street and get it changed.
It's got a story to tell, hasn't it?
It's got a story to tell. And I think, you've got to roll with the punches. And I think, to finish your point off, Hayden, I think you've got to be happy with yourself to be happy and kind to other people. And I think that's love yourself, love other people. That's what I'm trying to get to say.
I totally agree. And obviously fitness and looking after your body and mental health is important to you anyway. You talked about some of the things you do and build into your routine. So you're obviously someone that believes, looking after yourself is going to help you feel good.
Oh, definitely. And I try and, speak to lots of people about that. But it's really what works for you. There's nothing like a fitness ball or people telling you like what to do. But I know what works for me, and I know that, if I regularly train in the morning, I will probably generally have a more productive day and be a better self. But do what makes you happy.
Sounds good.
Yep.
And the final thing, James, as I ask every guest, what is it that makes you happy and brings you joy? I mean, I might have a little guess on this, but I'll ask you.
So like we just had baby Clara at the end of Jan, and that's the number one thing. I want to like double down on family time and raising.
So you're trying to make some shifts in terms of carving out more. Well, you have to, don't you? Make more space for that, and your schedule changes, doesn't it? To that you need to make more time for family.
Yeah, definitely. I think the role of a modern father has changed. I mean, I was changing Clara, and I think my dad was there, and he looked like a ghost, like he'd never done this before. And I think like the change in generations of men being more involved, I think is hugely important. My wife Victoria is really hardworking, and she's already back to work on her laptop. So technology really helps change that dynamic. But you just got to be more organised and planned when you're
right. I hadn't thought about this, but I suppose in maternity leave and things now in this new sort of hybrid era, it would be very strange now if a guy just left it all, if, say you were both working from home or doing this kind of hybrid arrangement. It's quite hard now to be that guy that says, all right, you can do all that. I'm going to go upstairs and work here. I imagine there has to be a bit more of a balance these days. It's only right.
Yeah, totally. And, it's that shift of ladies working and the pressures of looking after a baby, has on the relationship, on mother itself. And I've seen that firsthand. And I definitely think especially multinationals for instance, like even talk about Diageo and their maternity policy now for both men and women is, I think it's it's about 6 months mat cover. So these corporations,
you can share it out, can't you?
Yeah, these corporations are really understanding that, and I think paradigm's definitely changed, and whether that mother then still wants to stay with her family and do that, or go back to work, and I think times are definitely changing, and there's
for sure.
And I think working from home is definitely definitely helped that. But yeah, so Clara's joy of my life and family, and both of my in-laws and my parents, spending as much time as I can with them. And
are your wife's family sort of close by as well?
They're out in this beautiful place near West Wickham, which is a beautiful part of the world. And one day I think we'd like to probably be a bit out closer to them, but for the moment, we're in London, which is amazing.
There's a West Wickham near me in Kent. Is it not that one?
No, so that's in Bucks Buckingham.
It sounded really nice. I was thinking, I live near West Wickham, and
exactly.
I live near the other West Wickham. Sorry, where is it?
So I sat up near High Wycombe, close to Marlow, Henley, and
got you.
We love it there, and the country air is fantastic. And then on the whole, I think I'm focused in a space now where we're trying to make people's lives better, and I want a positive impact through innovative farming and shining a light on that through product and brands. If you don't vote for politics, make sure every marketing dollar you have, vote with your pound and vote for the right brands that are doing the right things for the planet. And we're lucky with that. Now there is a lot of greenwashing and bullshit out there that I can't stand, but on the whole, there's loads of positive things happening.
But you've got a real genuine story to tell, haven't you? There's not much bullshit here. It seems pretty straightforward in terms of what you're doing.
Oh, thanks, Hayden. That means a lot. And I think, I want people to scratch a little deeper with brands. And if they scratch a little deeper with Baz, they can see like an onion with so many different layers and tick boxes.
But I think consumers are definitely doing that more. And I think, brands that are coming along now, it's an important piece of the puzzle. And it would seem odd now for a brand in this, skincare beauty space to come along that didn't at least have something of those, clean and sustainability things covered off, and it's obviously absolutely at the heart of Baz Co. But really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for inviting me here to your workspace and having a chat. And I'm loving the products, and I'm going to put more information about Baz Co and some of the things that we talked about in the program notes so people can check it out. But in the meantime, thank you so much, and wishing you every success with the brand and, of course, with baby Clara.
Thanks,
James.
Thank you.
Huge thanks to James there. So interesting to talk to him, and a little glimpse into the future, I guess, of what farming and even, beauty and skincare could be, with how raw materials and ingredients are grown, and, using all his experience from his farming background. And I love that idea of sort of the skincare farmer. Thanks to James. Really, really enjoyed chatting with him. If you want to find out more about Baz & Co, you can do on Instagram. They're at Baz & Co Skincare, and that's all spelled out. So it's BAZANDCOSKINCARE. So all spelled out, Baz & Co Skincare. And on their website, they're bazandcoskincare.com, where you can find the product range and more information. And I'm sure there'll be more information about what's coming soon. And you can sign up if you want to find out more about Man in the Mirror. I'm at Man in the Mirror Pod on Instagram. And you can find out about previous guests, previous episodes, and things that will be coming up in the future. This is the last episode, actually, in the current run. I'm going to take a short break over the Easter period and just recharge my batteries and find some new guests and plan some more episodes and work on the pod. But look, I hope you've enjoyed this season. I think it's been some really, really good guests. And there's previous episodes to go back and have a listen to if you're missing it in the coming weeks. But I'll be back in early May with the next season, and I've got some great guests lined up for that. So in the meantime, my thanks to James, and of course, as always, my thanks to you for listening. And I'll see you very soon in May for more Man in the Mirror. Take care.